Hey everyone, welcome. Today we are diving straight into the foggy, battle-hardened Anglo-Saxon period to decode the very foundations of English literature. Consider this your ultimate survival guide for conquering the UGC NET exam. Whether you're totally new to this era or just looking for a really focused revision tool, you are in exactly the right place.
Here's our roadmap for today's explainer. First, the Anglo-Saxon world. Then, Beowulf, the ultimate epic. Third, monks, kings, and runes. Fourth, poetry of exile. And finally, master the exam strategy. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The Anglo-Saxon world. Foundations of Old English. Okay, the absolutely crucial concept you've got to wrap your head around right out of the gate is word. That's W-Y-R-D. This was the deeply ingrained Anglo-Saxon concept of fate, and it completely dominated their worldview. You know, when Anglo-Saxons wrote about heroism and loyalty, they were really writing about how bravely a hero faces their word. It's the absolute required lens for viewing every epic we're going to discuss today.
Now, this whole era, it's basically defined by a massive cultural collision. Picture this. On one side, you've got these ancient origins, an oral tradition rooted deeply in paganism, with warriors shouting rhythmic, epic stories around a roaring fire. But on the flip side, you have where the literature ultimately ended up, which is as highly structured written manuscripts painstakingly preserved by Christian monks. This deep tension between the spoken pagan past and the written Christian present is woven directly into the DNA of Old English literature.
And because of that major shift to written text, there are 4 surviving manuscripts you absolutely must memorize for exam day. The Beowulf manuscript, the Exeter book, the Junius manuscript, and the Vercelge book. Seriously, think about that for a second. Almost the entirety of our knowledge of Old English literature literally hangs by the thread of just these 4 specific texts. Without them, the literary history of this era goes totally dark.
Moving right along to Section 2, Beowulf, the ultimate epic.
All right, so let's look at the heavy hitter, the absolute most important text for the UGC NET exam, Beowulf. Written by an anonymous poet, this masterpiece of heroism gives us 3 distinct, terrifying adversaries. First, you've got the monster Grendel, then Grendel's even more terrifying mother, and, to top it all off, a massive, fire-breathing dragon. As you track these battles, keep an eye on the core themes driving the narrative. We're talking bravery, ideal kingship, and crucially, that inescapable power of fate, or word.
Section 3. Monks, kings, and runes. The pioneers.
Let's build your ultimate exam cheat sheet right now. These are the 4 biggest names you need to lock down from the period. First up is Caedmon. He is widely recognized as the very first known English poet, famous for his religious hymn that praises God. Then Cynewulf, who we'll dive into in just a second. Next is the Venerable Bede. His ecclesiastical history of the English people is a vital historical source. But here's a pro tip for the test. It was actually written in Latin, not Old English. Finally, we have King Alfred the Great. He was a massive champion for education who kicked off the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle and translated important works to really empower his people.
Now, I want to zero in on Cynewulf because examiners absolutely love testing on him. He was a somewhat mysterious poet with a brilliant, totally unique habit. He essentially watermarked his poems. He didn't just sign his name at the bottom, he wove his signature directly into the text using runic letters as a kind of ancient word puzzle. So when you see titles like Christ and Aline, instantly think of Cynewulf and his clever runic signatures. On to Section 4, Poetry of Exile, the Emotional Core.
You know, the Anglo-Saxon period wasn't just all dragons and kings. There's a whole category of poetry known as the anonymous elegies. The big 4 to remember are the Wanderer, the Seafarer, the Wife's Lament, and the Husband's Message. Whenever you see these titles, instantly associate them with harsh exile, bitter cold, and profound loneliness. They paint this raw, vivid picture of what it really felt like to be separated from your lord or your family in a brutal, unforgiving world. Just to round out the whole Anglo-Saxon puzzle, make sure you also recognize these major works: Widsith, Dior, and the Battle of Maldon. You don't necessarily need to memorize every single line of these, but you absolutely must be able to spot these titles in a multiple-choice lineup and instantly lock them into the specific historical period to snag those easy points.
Which brings us to Section 5, Master the Exam Strategy. Okay, if you only take away one single thing from this entire explainer, let it be this exact 5-step game plan, because this mirrors exactly how test makers structure their questions. Step 1, master Beowulf's 3 monsters and the theme of fate. Step 2, identify Cadman as the first known English poet. Step 3, remember Sinewulf and his clever runic signatures. Step 4, recall that Bede's history was an important source, but it was in Latin. And Step 5, know that King Alfred the Great pushed heavily for education and translations. So we started our journey today talking about word, that unyielding Anglo-Saxon concept of fate. The heroes of this era truly believed their path was entirely fixed from birth. But your UGC NET score? Well, that is entirely in your hands. Are you going to leave your exam to Word, or will you use this guide to prepare, take control, and absolutely conquer it? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and happy studying.